Janine Händel, welcome to the Executive Talk. As the CEO of the Roger Federer Foundation, do you ever have to explain who you're working for?
Actually, that's a very nice aspect of my job. I don't have to explain for whom I'm working. But, you know, in my professional environment, I try first actually to avoid a little bit for whom I'm working. So I'm only saying I'm directing a foundation in order to put forward our work more than our prominent president.
Is that kind of an issue or almost a problem that the president is so well known and so famous that it sometimes might be a risk that it takes away the focus, more to him and a little bit less on what you're actually doing?
Well, it's both. It is a big advantage because it opens quickly any kind of door, be it in African governments who all seem to be fans of Roger, being it when you want to meet other philanthropists or important stakeholders. There is certainly an advantage to have a prominent ambassador with you. But I mean, when you want really to speak about the quality of your work, maybe then there are some prejudice that people think, a celebrity foundation, they do a little bit of charity and that's all. So to push our professional approach in our work, maybe there it's good to have, first of all, a neutral intro into our engagement.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about different foundations, and yes, there are many celebrity foundations as well, do you often have to fight against that prejudice, or maybe that cliche that, there might just be a famous name attached to it, but he doesn't really care what the foundation is about?
Well, certainly you have to explain, but people give me always the opportunity to explain well. And then they are quite surprised to hear that Roger is participating in every and each board meeting, that he is really traveling to Africa regularly. And then there is this positive surprise that he really takes action, he takes decision, that he is always accessible for me, for the team, whenever we need him, and that is much more than other celebrities are doing for their own foundations.
The funny thing is when you talk about him and his notoriety and he's known all over the world, but you talked about how it is in Africa sometimes that with the children, for example, I mean they probably know him. But you spoke once about the situation that they can't really imagine who that person is, or that you can actually kind of have a life or gain a life with doing sports and playing tennis, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we work in a very rural area where there is no electricity, so there is no TV. Actually, so they don't know him. He is just a nice, gentle, white man bringing some fun into the village by visiting him. And you know, in Africa, you always are welcomed in a very, very warm environment with dance, with singing. But this is for every kind of visitor, being black or white or me or Roger. And so on the village level, they don't know him. And the children in particular, as you said, they cannot imagine that someone putting a ball from one side to the other of a net can make a fortune in their life. And actually it was very funny when we were in Zambia last time. He was explaining to the class at school what tennis is, and he was drawing something on the black wall, and then this teacher came in and said, you mean table tennis? And actually he said, no, it's not table tennis, it's with a long racket. So even the teacher had no clue what tennis is. So that's the environment we normally work in.
That's incredible. We're talking about two different worlds and two different levels as well. And do you often feel as well that if you switch between these two worlds, I mean, you talked about the stakeholders and the famous friends and the famous sponsors as well, and then you switch completely and you go to a place where they don't even know tennis, let alone Roger Federer. Is that difficult sometimes to switch from one world to the other?
For me personally, it's not difficult. I think that's really the interesting part of my work. I love to be on these different stages, on these different worlds. But moreover, it's something which concerns me because it really shows reality on the ground, that they are not connected to this digital world we are so used to live in, and we are so used to get access to all these advantages we can have, and this part of the world is just cut off, and there is a lot of concerns and the potential where we really have to come in and improve the situation.
And you do that via education. That's the big topic of the foundation. You work a lot in Africa, if not only in Africa. There are some projects in Switzerland as well, of course, for children. Why Africa? What was the main reason why Roger wanted to get involved in Africa?
Well, this was a quite natural choice because Roger's mother is born in South Africa, and Roger spent as a little kid many holidays in South Africa, living on farms, going with the camper in the national parks, and so it's really a continent which is close to his heart, which is family. I think he's even South African citizen. So it was natural that when he wanted to settle his foundation, that one geographical focus it will be in South Africa. But when you take these strategic decisions later on in a foundation, where should the foundation become engaged, then there were also some very rational arguments why we stay actually in the region and grow up in the whole region of Southern Africa, where we cover 6 countries. Because it's very cost efficient, that you can move around quickly from one country to the other, and you become a stakeholder in the region. You get your network about your topic, but in that one region. You get the know-how. You have similar programs in each and every country where you can compare, where you can create synergies. So all that makes sense actually, to focus on one particular region in the world and not to split your efforts and also your expenditures on different continents.
So that isn't the goal either, that you want to expand and you want to go to other continents, for example. So it's really that quite limited region of Southern Africa that stays in the focus also in the future.
For the next 7 years, which is our new strategy to come up with, yes, we will remain focused on Southern Africa, as the job is not done. So there is actually no reason why we should change. But of course, this is a decision the board needs to take at every new strategy from again. I mean, yeah.
The interesting and maybe also the sad thing is when you say the job is not done, the job is never done. That's part of a foundation as well. Do you find that sometimes frustrating or even saddening as well, that you know you're working in a field where you can make things better, slowly better, but it's never really done, and it's there's always going to be people, children in that case, who need more help?
I think it's a matter of perspective, and I'm more the nature. I see the glass half full than half empty, and actually, every visit I do to these villages, to the programs, I come fully home awarded with all these extremely big major progresses and developments I can see on the ground. The same to Roger, and there you easily forget how long the journey still needs to be until we arrive at a level of quality of education which you might compare with Switzerland. But working in Africa, it's much easier and quicker and more dynamic to reach an impact as it is, of course, in Switzerland.
However, you are working in Switzerland. That's some topics that are easily forgotten as well, that there is poverty in Switzerland. There's also child poverty. I think 1 in 15 is living in poverty-like states. is that important to you as well? Because of course we have to focus on Africa all the time, but that we tend to forget that you know, in rich countries like Switzerland, there is an issue as well.
Oh, it is very important for Roger to be active and to stay active in Switzerland. It's actually 10% of our budget which we try to invest in good systemic initiatives in Switzerland. And as the mission of the foundation is promoting children living in poverty, yes, we need to find these 15 or 20 children, which is actually an unacceptable high number for Switzerland. We cannot live and accept that every 15th child or every 20th child in Switzerland lives below poverty, because poverty, to be poor in Switzerland is maybe even less comfortable as be poor in Africa, because you can compare with other children's life standards. And poverty,
it's probably a bigger taboo as well, no? That people don't talk about it
yes,
that much.
exactly. I mean, poverty in Switzerland is not visible. That's why it is isolating a lot. So poverty comes with isolation. Children don't get access to many things which are costly in Switzerland. And finally, they never get the same chance, the same opportunities in life, in education, as children which are coming from a wealthy environment. And that's actually the big challenge in Switzerland. How to get access to these families which are living in a financially disadvantaged situation, because you don't see them and they don't come to you. You cannot just make a public announcement, we have a new program with free services, please come and enjoy. They will not come. We need to go and get them. And that's the big challenge actually in Switzerland.
Speaking about challenges, you of course have a different challenge. Being a foundation like yours, you have to pick and choose the right projects. And I can imagine that you get plenty of applications, plenty of phone calls, plenty of emails. How do you choose between, you know, all those who probably all have a right to exist and have a right to get fundings, but how do you pick the right ones and the ones that you think are the ones best suitable for the foundation?
Absolutely, there are millions of very good and legitimate initiatives, programs, projects around the world.
And how many of them get in touch with you?
Well, around 1,500 per year. But in our case, actually, we don't react on unsolicited proposals, as we say in our technical terms. We define first on a strategic level what we want to achieve in the next 10 years, in the next 7 years. We create this strategy together with partners, and if we need additional partners for that, we do call for proposals where we invite very selective organizations which bring already a track record, which have the right size, which have the right knowledge in the field we are looking for, and they come in then with a concept, and together we create then that program.
The main thing is to react, right? I mean, I think you told me that you respond to every mail you get, to every request you get.
For me, it's a matter of respect. These people, they approach us with a lot of hope, with that they hope that they will be supported by us, and I think it's a matter of respect to give them a good answer, an answer which they can follow on, which they understand. And maybe even in some occasions we give them some tips where they can look for other help, or we have a little chat, or that is also, we are Roger's visitor cards. Therefore they don't approach the foundation, they always approach also a little bit Roger. So that's why, yes, I have a fundamental position, every single email needs to be replied on.
How's your position within the whole company, or within the whole foundation in a way? You talked about the board. The board mainly consists of Roger's family. There's someone who makes the decision in the end. How much can you influence that decision, or to put it the other way around, are there some issues sometimes, or that you're not on the same level, or that you might say, I don't agree with this decision, I would have done it differently?
Well, a board who has not very good discussions is not the real board you need. I need boards which are challenging me as well as a CEO, and we are not always agreeing on everything in the board, and that's also okay. But it's the discussion actually which really brings us forward.
How much does your character help you in that way? You've been a diplomat before coming here, so do you have to be a diplomat in your position as well sometimes?
Well, I was a very undiplomatic diplomat. My previous boss can confirm that. But it's more, I'm also a mediator by profession, and I think there I'm always looking for the win-win situation. But you mentioned that the majority of the board members are family members, but we have 3 external experts on philanthropy, which are absolutely crucial. They really bring in also the professional know-how from each and every perspective, and even they are in a minority, we never vote. We always try to come to a consensus. We are very Swiss in this regard, and try to avoid a votation.
One thing, of course, which is very important, and I guess that's also the reason why you have external figures, persons in there as well as corporate governance, is transparency. That's something that with every foundation, people tend to look very closely, quite rightly so. Yes, exactly. So what happens to the money? Do you sometimes feel people look even more closely, maybe because you're linked to a world-known figure, to a name that everybody knows?
Well, they should, and I hope they do. That's one of the advantages, but I perceive it as a disadvantage, being the Roger Federer Foundation. People tend to think we are perfect as Roger is. And that's not the case. We are an organization with our failures, with our successes, but we try to give our best and to reach the best possible standards we can have in terms of governance, in terms of transparency, in terms of impact orientation. So all these 3 factors are in the Swiss Foundation Code, which we truly believe in. But we need to fight and challenge ourselves and the board, of course, in every single meeting that we get to that role. But we think we should be a role model in this. And so I invite everybody to come to our homepage, to see our annual reports, to see our figures. I think it's important. We own them, transparency, to the public, to the taxpayers, yes, to everybody.
And how demanding is Roger himself? Because it's his reputation on the line. If something goes wrong, it's not going to affect you personally maybe that much, the foundation, yes, but it'll go straight to him, right?
I think it's less his fear that his reputation could have a damage, otherwise he would not allow us to take any risk. It's more his ambition to be as good as possible, whatever he makes. He doesn't care too much about his reputation. That is, of course, something I care maybe more than he. But it's really, that's why he has his own foundation and is not just becoming an ambassador of any kind of NGO somewhere, what would also be an option. Because he wanted to be in the driving seat in terms of due diligence, in terms of topic chosen, in terms of approach, and in terms of quality insurance, how we work and what we deliver. So it's really that motivation. Give the best you can, be professional as you can, even if it's philanthropy. It's a business as any other one.
It's an interesting business because it takes on worldwide. There are very well-known philanthropists. There are very outspoken philanthropists. In this case here, with Roger Federer Foundation, I at least have the impression it's quite private in a way. So even if he goes to Africa, for example, it's not with 100 journalists and 20 camera crews with him. it is in a way something he wants to do on a personal level. Is that something you would like to improve on, or maybe say we could do a little bit more, we could do a bit more PR, to take that word, or to, you know, to speak more about ourselves, or is it fine the way it is?
It's interesting that for you the interpretation of it is being private. Actually,
You don't agree? Or?
no, our communication strategy is actually to be modest. So, which is somehow to say also Swiss. We first do and then speak about it. And even though we are also a stakeholder in this whole value chain, there are many other people which we are dependent on their delivery, on their success, as our local partner organization in the field, on governments which contribute towards. So it's never the success just of us. It's absolutely team work, and that's important. And well, we don't take journalists with us when we go on field visits with Roger, but that has also particularly the reason. For him, these are important learning journeys. He really needs to experience our work. And this is not possible when it becomes a show, and that's not him neither. We don't do show here. We do philanthropy, we do work, development cooperation work on the ground, and we want to experience on our trips, is it working, is it having the impact we were hoping to have? And this is why we want to create as intimate moment as possible when Roger goes to the field. And that's why we just bring our VJ with us, which is the same since the beginning, in order then also to share afterwards that intimate moment.
It's only 15 years old, the foundation. We have that anniversary in these days. Where do you see, final question, where do you see the foundation in 20, 30, 50 years?
That's an interesting question. I can only say that the foundation will still be alive and will still be active, because it was Roger's long-term vision of doing that organization. When he started with 22 years old, he just had Andrew Agassi's comment in his head saying, he started his foundation at the end of the career, and he said, if I could change something, I would start earlier. And that's what Roger did. What he did not imagine, he said that once to me, was that the foundation will be already so impactful during his career. We started very small, we grew organically, and now we are having a budget, an annual budget of 8.5 million. That might increase a little bit in the near future, but not drastically anymore. But this is substantial. This is a substantial amount and size of an organization, and this is truly something he was not expecting. He was not expecting, by the way, as well, to be so much involved in the foundation. Actually, when he did the next step of having a professional management of the foundation, he was hoping actually to have less time and effort to be involved in the foundation. And he said,
but the opposite was the case.
The opposite, since you are in that position, actually I'm much more involved than ever. But he enjoys very much, and he learns also very much in the foundation work, being a president, how to deal with good governance, how to chair meetings, how to take decisions. So there are many aspects which philanthropy can teach you for also your normal business life.
Long term as well.
Long term. And yes, he already stated that he hopes one day, rather sooner than later, his children will be involved in the foundation's work. And that's actually a very unique opportunity. When you have a family foundation like that, you can involve your children in a very playful, joyful manner to live family values. In which families you speak at the dinner on the table about what are the values of our family, what is important to us. These things normally you don't name. When you have a family foundation, you do it. You discuss what matters to us. And therefore, philanthropy opens big opportunities for wealthy families, especially when they can raise all these questions.
And with 4 children at the table, that's
Yes.
easier to split also the work. Janine Händel, thank you very much for that discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.